Andreas Velikovsky also proved through his research that there were continents sunk to the bottom of the sea. Velikovsky's most important work is Worlds in Collision. In this work, Velikovsky, based on many scientific researches, like a detective examining the evidence one by one, tried to identify inconceivable catastrophes in the world's past. His investigations revealed that the Himalayas and Tibet, once submarine, had suddenly risen. In the same way, according to the theory, many new land masses formed in the Americas and Africa. In addition, glacial traces found on the mountain ranges at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean indicate that these mountains were once above the sea. Velikovsky points to the mass graves of animals found all over the world. He noted that in a general catastrophe, they were washed away by the waters, crushed on the rocks, and buried one on top of the other, with stones piled on top of them. 7 dismembered human skeletons were found in a mass animal grave at Chukotien, near Peking. They belong to 3 different races: white, Eskimo, and Melanesian. According to paleontological evidence, the animal population was quite large before the catastrophe, and at the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 years BC, it is suggested that 40 million animals saw a sudden death. There are tens of thousands of frozen mammoth corpses under the ice in northern Siberia. Carbon-14 tests show that these animals died about 12,000 years ago. Another piece of evidence. In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, where Plato pointed out, there is a large area of relatively shallow land under the sea. It is called the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Some Atlanticologists consider it to be the remains of a sunken continent. In 1949, Professor Morris Ewing of Columbia University explored under the sea at this level and found a sandy shoreline on the seafloor at a depth of 4 to 5.5 kilometers. Since sand can only be formed by erosion under atmospheric conditions and cannot be formed underwater, it is inevitable that this beach must have sunk. Another piece of evidence is that in the harbor in the Andean Mountains, it is still possible to find seaweed remains. There are also many sandy coastlines that have risen well above sea level. This shows that the land at sea level has risen in recent history as a result of major events. Again, large areas at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean were found to be covered in lava. According to French geologist Pierre Termier, lava samples taken from underwater are of the glass basalt lava type and can only solidify under atmospheric pressure outside water. So these volcanoes were once on land and now they are underwater. The major geological conclusions or evidence that the continents of Atlantis or Mu once existed and sank to the bottom of the sea are the following: the drying up of the Mississippi and Lawrence valleys, the emergence of Florida, the disappearance of the Amazon Sea, the expansion of the North American Atlantic coastline. For these geological events to occur, a large landmass would have to sink in the sea. For example, according to Ralph Franklin Walworth and Jeffrey Walworth Shostrom, the very low water level during the last ice age alone is a sufficient reason for the existence of Mu. In addition to the sinking of these large continents, some scientific evidence suggests that much of the rest of the world was submerged for some time until the waters receded. Scientist Leonard Woolley's discovery of a large layer of sea clay after ancient pottery during excavations in Sumer between 1922 and 1934 caused a worldwide sensation. Woolley explained that this layer of pure clay and sand could only have been formed as a result of a great flood. Such a huge mass of clay formed in a single period of time could only have been the result of a very great flood. It can only be the remains of the legendary Noah's flood. Microscopic analysis showed that a thick layer of clean clay had been piled here by a flood so great that it wiped out the ancient Sumerian civilization. Similar findings have been found in caves in Greece. Scientists studying the cave layers realized there had been a seawater inundation some 10,000 years ago. This has been referred to in the literature as the Black Sea Flood. Professor Petko Dimitrov's dating published in 1982 and Dr. Ballard's dating of the first shell layer in Figure 2 showed that the inundation in the Black Sea was around 10,000 years BC. W. Ryan and W. Pittman found an ancient shoreline and fully preserved sand dunes at a depth of 155 meters in the Black Sea, indicating a flood. The fully preserved dunes were evidence of the rapidity of the flood. In another 2003 paper, Professor Ryan dated the flood-formed sand dunes to 9,500 years ago, which agrees with Prof. Dimitrov's dating of Noah's flood. The geological evidence for the flood is growing every day. In the North Sea in the UK, near Ireland and Greenland, forests can be seen that sank to the bottom of the sea thousands of years ago. According to scientists, the date of the sinking of these forests coincides with the date of the Great Flood. Scientists have recently discovered a large underground water source. This underground water source contains water 3 times the size of the oceans on Earth. It has been discovered that these waters are contained in blue stones called ringwoodite, located 700 kilometers below the ground. This situation suggests that this underground water source may contain enough water to cover the entire land. This discovery coincides with the verse in the Quran that says that groundwater was added to the flood